The office fell silent as James stood there, his voice barely above a whisper. I can't date anyone because the last promise I made to my wife was that I would give our daughter the childhood she deserves. His boss, Catherine, felt her heart shatter as the truth behind his constant refusals finally came to light. Sometimes the strongest people carry the heaviest burdens in silence, and James's story is one that will remind you why family comes first. If this resonates with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more stories that celebrate the quiet heroes among us. James Matthews stared at the blinking cursor on his computer screen, the numbers on his quarterly report blurring before his tired eyes. The office around him hummed with the usual Friday afternoon energy, people making weekend plans, laughing about where they might go for happy hour. He glanced at his watch, 4:37 p.m. 23 minutes until he could leave, pick up Emma from after-school care, and begin their weekend routine. 23 minutes that felt like an eternity. Knock knock, came a familiar voice from his doorway. Catherine Reynolds, the company's marketing director and his direct supervisor, leaned against the frame of his cubicle. At 42, she carried herself with the confidence of someone who knew her worth, her dark hair cut in a sleek bob that framed intelligent brown eyes. Got a minute? James nodded, gesturing to the chair beside his desk. Of course. Catherine sat down, smoothing her pencil skirt as she did. The team's heading to Riverside Tavern after work. I thought maybe you'd join us this time. There was something in her tone, a hint of something more than a casual invitation. I appreciate the offer, but I need to pick up Emma, James replied, the same answer he'd given countless times over the 3 years he'd worked at Meridian Marketing. Catherine's smile faltered slightly. You know, James, in the 3 years you've been here, you've never once joined us for after-work anything. The team misses you. I'm sorry about that. It's just complicated with Emma's schedule. Catherine leaned forward slightly. Is it really just Emma's schedule? Or is there something else? James felt a familiar tightness in his chest. What do you mean? I mean, Catherine said carefully, that I've noticed how you turn down every social invitation. How you keep everyone at arm's length. How you've declined when Sarah from accounting asked you to coffee, when Michael invited you to his Super Bowl party, and when She paused, gathering courage, when I've tried to see if there might be something between us. The air between them grew heavy with unspoken words. James looked down at the small framed photo on his desk, Emma at her 7th birthday party last year, her smile wide despite the missing front tooth, her eyes so much like her mother's. Catherine, Why won't you date? She asked directly, her professional demeanor momentarily set aside. Is it me specifically? Or is it something else? Because I've felt this connection between us, and I thought maybe you did too. The question hung in the air between them. In another life, James might have laughed at the irony, his beautiful, successful boss essentially asking why he kept rejecting her. 3 years ago, he would have jumped at the chance. But that was before. James took a deep breath. He rarely spoke about his personal life at work, preferring to keep those worlds separate. But Catherine deserved honesty. It's not you, he said quietly. You're amazing, smart, beautiful, kind. Any man would be lucky to be with you. But not you? There was no bitterness in her voice, just genuine curiosity and perhaps a touch of hurt. James looked at Emma's photo again, then back at Catherine. Let me tell you a story. 5 years earlier, James had it all, a successful career in advertising, a beautiful home in the suburbs, and most importantly, a family he adored. His wife Melissa was his college sweetheart, a kindergarten teacher with a laugh that could light up a room. Their daughter Emma was 3, a bundle of energy with her mother's chestnut curls and his stubborn chin. We were the family in the Christmas cards everyone envied, James explained, his voice steady despite the pain that always accompanied these memories. The ones who seemed to have figured it all out. Then came the headaches. Melissa dismissed them as stress, as lack of sleep from raising a toddler. By the time they couldn't be ignored anymore, the diagnosis was devastating: glioblastoma, an aggressive brain tumor. Terminal. 8 months, James said, his voice dropping. That's how long we had from diagnosis to the end. 8 months of treatments that made her sicker, of hope that would rise and crash, of trying to explain to a 3-year-old why mommy was sleeping so much. Catherine's eyes had filled with tears, her hand unconsciously reaching toward him but stopping short of contact. The last few weeks, she was mostly lucid. We talked about everything, about what songs to play at her memorial, about how I should rearrange the furniture in the living room because she'd always hated the way I had it. A small, sad smile crossed his face at the memory. But mostly, we talked about Emma. James remembered those conversations with perfect clarity, Melissa propped up in their bed, so thin and pale but her eyes still bright with love and worry for their daughter. She made me promise something, James continued. She said, James, promise me Emma will have the childhood she deserves. Promise me you'll be there for every moment, every school play, every soccer game, every skinned knee and nightmare and triumph. Promise me she'll never feel like she's missing out because she only has one parent. The office around them had grown quiet, the end-of-week chatter fading as people left for the day. But neither James nor Catherine noticed. I promised her, James said simply. And that's why I can't date. It's not just about time, though God knows being a single parent leaves precious little of that. It's about emotional energy. Dating means dividing my attention, my heart. It means introducing someone new into Emma's life who might leave. It means risking her feeling like she's competing for my attention. Catherine wiped away a tear that had escaped down her cheek. But surely Melissa wouldn't have wanted you to be alone forever. James nodded. We talked about that too. She told me that someday, when Emma was older and secure, she'd find love again. But Emma's only 8 now. These years are crucial. She's still processing her grief, still forming her sense of security in the world. I can't risk that. The office was nearly empty now, the overhead lights automatically dimming in sections as motion sensors detected abandoned areas. The truth is, James continued, I've seen what happens when parents prioritize their romantic lives over their children's stability. My own father cycled through relationships after my mom left, and each new girlfriend was supposed to be the one who would make our family complete again. Each time they left, it was another abandonment. I won't do that to Emma. Catherine was quiet for a long moment. I had no idea, James. I'm so sorry. Don't be, he said gently. You couldn't have known. I keep my personal life private for a reason. She must be an amazing little girl, Catherine said. At this, James's face transformed, the weight of grief momentarily lifted by pride and love. She is. She's brilliant and funny and stubborn. She's learning piano and can already play better than I ever could. She wants to be a veterinarian and an astronaut and a teacher, sometimes all in the same day. Catherine smiled through her tears. She sounds wonderful. She's my whole world, James said simply. And that's why I can't date. Not you, not anyone. Not yet. The silence between them was no longer awkward but filled with understanding. Thank you for telling me, Catherine finally said, standing up. I respect your decision, and your dedication to your daughter. James nodded, grateful for her understanding. But James, she added, pausing at the entrance to his cubicle. When Emma is older, when you feel ready, not all of us would run. Some of us would stay. With that, she walked away, leaving James with his thoughts and the photo of his smiling daughter. That evening, as James helped Emma with her homework at their kitchen table, he found himself studying her face. She had Melissa's eyes, her determined expression when concentrating. But there was so much of him there too, the way she tilted her head when thinking, the slight furrow between her brows. Dad, she asked, looking up from her math worksheet. Are you okay? You're staring. I'm perfect, kiddo, he replied, reaching out to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. Just thinking about how lucky I am to be your dad. Emma rolled her eyes in that dramatic way only children can perfect. You're being weird again. James laughed. Probably. How about we finish this math, and then make those cookies you wanted? The chocolate chip ones with the sea salt on top. Those exact ones. Emma's face lit up, and in that moment, James knew he'd made the right choice. Someday, perhaps, there would be room in their lives for someone else. But for now, this was enough. This was everything. The weekend passed in their usual routine: Saturday morning cartoons and pancakes, Emma's piano lesson, grocery shopping, a trip to the park where Emma practiced cartwheels until she was dizzy and grass-stained. Sunday brought their traditional visit to the cemetery, where Emma placed wildflowers on her mother's grave and told her about the A she'd gotten on her science project. Monday morning arrived too quickly, as it always did. James dropped Emma at school with a hug in her lunchbox, then headed to the office with a mixture of dread and resolve. He wasn't sure how things would be with Catherine after their conversation. He needn't have worried. When he arrived at his desk, there was a small gift bag waiting. Inside was a frame, elegant but simple, with a note attached, "For your other desk photo. Everyone should see what you're working so hard for." See. That afternoon, James placed a new photo on his desk, Emma at the park that weekend, mid-cartwheel, her face a blur of joy and determination. And when Catherine passed by his cubicle later, she smiled at the photo, then at him, with no expectation or pressure, just understanding. 2 weeks later, Catherine approached his desk again, but this time it was different. "James, I have a proposition for you, strictly professional." He looked up, curious. The Anderson account needs someone to lead their new campaign, but it would involve some late meetings, probably twice a month. Before I offered it to you, I wanted to check if that would work with your schedule. James was surprised. The Anderson account was prestigious, a career-advancing opportunity. "I appreciate you thinking of me, but the late meetings would be difficult with Emma." Catherine nodded. "I thought so. That's why I've already spoken with HR. If you want the account, the company is willing to provide childcare reimbursement for those evenings, or you could bring Emma here. We have that small conference room that's rarely used. She could do homework or watch movies while you're in the meeting." James was speechless. "The world shouldn't have to choose between being good parents and having careers," Catherine said simply. "Especially not single parents." That evening, James discussed the opportunity with Emma over dinner. "What do you think, kiddo? Would you mind hanging out at my office a couple nights a month? You'd have to be pretty quiet and do your homework." Emma considered this seriously, twirling spaghetti around her fork. "Would I get to see where you work? With all the computers and stuff?" "Yep. And you'd get to meet my boss, Catherine. She's the one who suggested this." "Is she nice?" James thought about Catherine's understanding, her respect for his boundaries, her creative solution to include rather than exclude him. "Yes, she's very nice. And very smart." Emma nodded decisively. "Then I think it's okay. As long as I can bring my tablet for when I finish my homework." "Deal," James said, offering his hand for a formal shake that made Emma giggle. The Anderson campaign was a success, with James leading the team to create the company's most effective marketing strategy in years. Emma became a regular fixture at the office on meeting nights, charming everyone with her politeness and occasional insightful comments about the colorful graphics in the presentations she glimpsed. Catherine was careful to maintain professional boundaries with James, never pushing for more than he could give. But she did develop a friendship with Emma, discovering they shared a love of space documentaries and chocolate sea salt cookies. One evening, nearly a year after their initial conversation, James found Catherine helping Emma with a science project in the conference room while he finished a client call. "The thing about black holes," Catherine was explaining, "is that they're not really holes at all. They're incredibly dense objects with gravity so strong that nothing can escape, not even light. Emma's eyes were wide with fascination. So if you fell into one, you'd be stretched like spaghetti? Exactly. It's called spaghettification. They both dissolved into giggles at the word, and something in James's heart shifted as he watched them. Not a dramatic change, but a quiet realization that perhaps the boundaries he'd set weren't as necessary as they once had been. That night, after Emma was asleep, James found himself looking at old photos of Melissa. "What would you think?" he whispered to her smiling image. "Is it time?" He could almost hear her response, "James Matthews, are you really asking if it's okay to let someone else care about our daughter? To let someone care about you? Because that sounds like the man I married, overthinking everything." The thought made him smile through his tears. The next day, James asked Catherine if she'd like to join them for pizza and a movie that weekend, just as friends, he clarified. But friends who might someday see if there could be more. Catherine's smile was worth the fear he'd felt in asking. "I'd like that very much." Their relationship developed slowly, with Emma's well-being always at the center. There were difficult conversations, moments of guilt, times when James pulled back, afraid he was betraying Melissa's memory or shortchanging Emma. But there were also moments of surprising joy, of feeling like perhaps their little family had room to grow after all. 6 months into their cautious dating, Emma asked a question that stopped James cold. "Dad, is Catherine your girlfriend now?" They were driving home from school, and James nearly missed a stop sign at the unexpected query. "Well," he said carefully, "we do spend a lot of time together." "Would it bother you if she was?" Emma considered this with the seriousness only children can bring to important matters. "No," she finally said. "I like her. She doesn't try to be my mom." James felt his throat tighten. "No one could ever replace your mom, Emma." "I know," Emma said simply. "Mom was mom. Catherine is Catherine. They're different people." Out of the mouths of babes, James thought, amazed at his daughter's wisdom. "But Dad?" Emma added. "Yes, sweetheart. I think Mom would like Catherine. She makes you smile more." That night, James called Catherine and told her about the conversation. "I've been so worried about honoring my promise to Melissa," he admitted. "But I think maybe the best way to honor it is to make sure Emma has a happy father, not just a present one." "James," Catherine said gently, "from everything you've told me about Melissa, I think she would want both of you to be happy." "I think you're right," he said. "And you make us happy." 2 years after that first difficult conversation in James's cubicle, he found himself back in the same spot, this time with a small velvet box in his desk drawer. Emma, now 11, had helped him pick out the ring, her approval and excitement giving him the courage he needed. Catherine knocked on his cubicle wall, just as she had that day. "Got a minute?" James smiled. "For you?" "Always." As Catherine sat down, James took a deep breath. "I have a question for you this time." "Oh?" Catherine raised an eyebrow, curious. James reached into his drawer and pulled out the box, watching as understanding dawned on Catherine's face. "I once told you I couldn't date because I made a promise to give Emma the childhood she deserves," he said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "What I've learned is that part of that childhood includes seeing her father truly happy. You make me happy, Catherine. You make us both happy."